Longhorn Nation, Sooner fans, welcome to episode 146 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Oklahoma and the University of Texas. I'm here with my man Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, it is the definition of a light week. The University of Texas has a bye week before they face Florida, which is still not on the road. They play at home in 2 weeks. We're going to talk a little bit about this. I'm mystified by Texas's schedule. We knew it was going to be easier, but literally it is November and you've only had one SEC road game. It's just odd. Oklahoma gets to enjoy their SEC-esque bye week, as it were, against the University of Maine Black Bears. We'll break down that to an extent. The extent being as much as we really want to break down the Maine game. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about Oklahoma as a program and how they're going to finish out the season against their last three conference opponents. But first, Kevin, I'm in the doldrums. Okay, Oklahoma football has not gone the way I wanted it to go this year, not gone the way I anticipated it going this year. The lack of competitiveness, especially on the offensive side of the ball, has left me brokenhearted, empty. My soul hurts. There is a bright spot in my life, though, and I wanted to talk to you about this. I don't know if you knew this, and maybe you did. Maybe we've talked about it, but I don't know. I know we haven't talked about it on the podcast. Did you know I'm installing a putting green / golf green in my backyard?
You know, you mentioned it, but you didn't go into a lot of detail about it. So tell me about it.
Well, let's use the Maine / bye week as the opportunity to talk about this. Okay. So I wanted to do this project like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It's pretty expensive. All right. This is like kind of pricey. And so I really wasn't able to do it and didn't really make a lot of sense. But this year, the wifey gave the blessing to proceed with the project. Okay? We are talking 2,000 square feet of effective putting area.
Wow.
Correct. So it's going to be about 30 feet. These things come in rolls of 15. You can get 15 feet wide and then as long as you want to buy. So essentially each short edge is going to be 30 feet long by about 60, 62 feet. 30 feet wide by about 60, 62 feet long. Going to have a little bit of curve, a little bit of kidney shape. We're going to surround it with 1 foot of fringe. And then surrounded by that is Tifway 419 Bermuda. So it's going to be artificial, but then surrounded by real grass, which you know because you use a real mower, REEL. You use a real mower. I too am going to invest in a real mower and try to keep that chipping area nice. But here's the cool part. In addition to all that, as if that wasn't cool enough, you get 3 launch pads or tee boxes, as it were, of artificial turf that I've strategically placed at 50 yards, 65 yards, and 85 yards. And the type of green system that I put in will accept shots up to about 130 yards. So it's very exciting. We are getting to the final phase of the sub base, which is like really, really fine crushed rock. When added with a little bit of water, will almost be concrete-like. So this week has been all about shaping and undulation and creating level putting surfaces in addition to fall-offs. Very exciting stuff, Kevin. It's the only thing that has got me through the fall this year.
Well, it's nice to have something to fall back on because as a Texas fan, I could tell you we had a decade of this. So I'm just trying to find other things to fill the emptiness inside of your heart when the football team that you love is not performing well.
I was listening to the T-Row in the morning show this week, and they're basically talking about how bad it is. And Toby Rowland was basically saying, hey, I've been telling you guys it's bad. And he's right. Normally, local radio and even guys like me on these kind of podcasts, we have to kind of be positive because
we're fans.
We're fans. And we're trying to be positive. We're trying to, create a sense of whatever. But it's just not good. And I just couldn't deal with it. So I turned the radio station over and I went on to like one of the country stations. And it was Jelly Roll, I'm Not Okay. And I'm listening to the song. Instead of listening to T-Row, I'm listening to I'm Not Okay by Jelly Roll. Are you a Jelly Roll fan, Kevin?
I don't know much about Jelly Roll. He used to be a rapper, right?
I know. I don't know his stuff. Do you know his rap stuff?
I don't think he'd ever pop, but he has a 10-minute freestyle. And he sounds like a straight up Southern rapper, like he's from Houston or Memphis. Straight up rap.
I actually think
gangsta trap.
I will make the argument that real country music, if it was ever to be really invested, really dialed, would be rap music. White country dudes love rap. Every bit as much as inner city African American dudes. They just like rap. And I think that if you ever really leaned into it, that's probably more authentic. That's neither here nor there. The point is, Jelly Roll is singing I Am Not Okay. And I almost started crying about the state of the Oklahoma football program.
Wow. So you're down that
bad. I'm not making that up. I feel generally like overall like a malaise of depression when I think about where we're at as a football program. And it's okay to lose to Tennessee. It's okay to lose to Texas, I guess. Not really.
Not really, but it's understandable.
And I guess it's okay to lose to Ole Miss, although I don't think Ole Miss is that good.
I don't know.
I think Tennessee and Texas are better football teams and programs than Ole Miss.
Well, I know Texas is better than Tennessee, or Texas is better than Ole Miss. That's for sure. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
You guys at Texas haven't got to play anybody. Anybody. You haven't had to play anybody in the SEC, including Oklahoma. We're a joke this year. So I don't know where Texas is at. I say that. You played Georgia. What am I talking about? You got beat. But, oh my God, dude. Our schedule is brutal. And all we have to do, we play Maine, the Black Bears. We'll talk a little Maine. Dude, I don't know, man. Missouri, I really think we could beat Missouri.
The Missouri game is there for the taking. They're not a good team. I don't care about their ranking being ranked 25th, which is an absolute joke, by the way. The eye test, they don't pass it. It's not a good team. It just isn't.
They're not good. They don't pass it. They're terrible. And they almost lost to Boston College back when Boston College was kind of pretending to be ranked. Boston College is terrible. They probably should have lost that game. And then we have to finish up with Alabama and LSU. We're not beating those teams. There's no freaking way.
It seems unlikely. It seems highly unlikely to be either one, especially LSU on the road. LSU still passes the eye test for me. I know they have would they have 2 losses or 3? Either way, LSU still passes the eye test for me. Missouri does not. The Missouri game is there, and you have to win it. That's the thing. You have to win the Missouri game if you want to go to a bowl game.
Before Brent Venables' press conference on Tuesday, I guess he's re-inspired me. He did speak for an hour and 10 minutes, which makes me wonder if he's preaching.
Well, he's long-winded. He just naturally, you give him a microphone, he sideline interviews, he'll just go on and on and on and on and on. He
said a lot of good stuff, a lot of stuff that kind of re-inspired me in terms of Jackson Arnold, what he thinks of him as a quarterback, what he thinks about him going forward, what he thinks about him in terms of coming back next year. This is where we're at it as an Oklahoma fan base. We're already talking about 2025. It's October still. It's October, and we're already talking about 2025. However, whatever.
Been there, I'm telling you.
So I feel a little better. But before I felt better, okay, if that's such a thing, on Monday, when I'm listening to Jelly Roll, and Jelly's not okay, I'm not okay, I was wondering, if we don't beat Missouri, If we go 5-7, we're going to beat Maine. Maine sucks. If we go 5-7, is Brent Venables guaranteed to be back, Kevin?
I don't think so. I don't think he's guaranteed. Now, I'm not coming out and saying, "Oh, he's got to go" or he's going to be gone, but I don't think anything's guaranteed.
If we lay an egg against Missouri, if we get blown out at home by Alabama, which is possible, I don't even think this is a great Alabama team. Obviously, we've seen Tennessee, we've seen their struggles at Vanderbilt, but it's still Alabama.
Like they never led. I don't think they ever led in that Vanderbilt game
until the very end. Or no, ever. Right?
I don't think they did at all.
Yeah. So, and then what happened to Tennessee, and they're just what happened against South Carolina. Hell, South Carolina should have probably beat them. And then you lose at LSU on what's likely going to be a Saturday night game. At least you hope so if you're an OU fan. But this isn't a great LSU team. Lost to USC, lost to A&M. You don't make a bowl game. I love Brent Venables. I love what he's about. We've seen on the field what he can do as a football coach on the defensive side of the ball. The Seth Luttrell hire was so bad. So bad. I'm just not sure, dude. I'm not sure he's back. I want him to be successful. I want to beat Missouri. I want to pull an upset in one of these last two games. I want to have some momentum. But, dude, if we lay an egg, bro, I'm just not sure. I'm really not sure. Then I have the press conference. He gets me fired up again. I think maybe things are going to be okay. But I just don't know.
It's a rough place to be in when you're kind of on the fence after year 3. The biggest thing we talked about this, the management of the roster, the management of the offense, the staff deal, going with the comfort hire of Seth Luttrell.
Terrible.
And,
just
didn't work. It just didn't work. And, he'll have a chance this year. I don't think they'll fire him, but you never know. But if he comes back, if they bring him back, he's got to get this offensive coordinator thing right because it's his job on the line. You only get one mulligan when it comes to making major turnover within your coaching staff.
Kevin, here's a problem for Oklahoma and for Brent Venables and for everybody involved. It's basically the same schedule next year. And you play Michigan.
Yeah, add Michigan to it.
And you play Michigan. I think we host Michigan. I don't know. I think we host Michigan.
I'll look it up real quick.
I think it's a Sharon Moore homecoming.
Good for him.
It doesn't get easier.
No. It is.
God, I don't know. It is
Illinois State. Okay. Illinois State. I've never heard of Illinois State. Michigan. You go to Temple. What's that about?
Well, you really want to recruit that Philadelphia area, Kevin. That's a big time recruiting area.
They are.
That's not surprising.
They are players up there. They are. But still. But Temple, though?
Not that many.
Not like you're paying Pitt, Penn State. So, anyway, that's what we have.
Whatever.
For sure, the schedule. The Michigan game's tough.
You play Maine this week. The quarterback's Carter Peavy. Not a bad quarterback when you look at his stats. The thing is, Maine's 4-4, and their schedule's just terrible. Well, I'll go over their schedule after I look at their roster just for a second. Carter Peavy, 1,586 yards, 70% completion percentage, 11 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. Not the end of the world stats for a quarterback.
No.
Weirdly enough, they've got 3 running backs. Santana, Feast, Banks, and Martin. The reason I'm not breaking any of them down is because they almost have identical stats. They all have run for 280 yards. They all average 4 yards a carry, and combined, they have 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think Santana Feast is at 5.1, but 3.8 for Martin and 4.1 for Banks. So, yeah,
but not a whole lot.
Similar. No, there's no separating them at all, hardly.
Very similar.
Receiving 285, 287, and 287. And then
it's crazy,
Peavy
right?
Has 254 yards rushing himself.
It's pretty crazy.
It is. You don't see that. That's
the receiver, their one receiver is Montego Moss, 42 catches, 441 yards, 3 touchdowns. I don't know. Oklahoma, we should throw every freshman we have on the field and see what sticks. We should see if there's anybody that we haven't played yet that when put under the lights of Owen Field, and I don't think it's loud. What time is this game? I don't even know what time this game is.
I mean, it's got to be 11 o'clock game, right? I mean, let's see.
This is whatever. It doesn't matter.
No,
So
1:30.
Seriously?
1:30 p.m. This is
this
sports.com.
Is it ESPN Plus game?
That I don't know. That it kind of has that feel to it though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it should be. I don't think they have anybody on the defensive side. Kev, do they have anybody defensively that we even talk about?
Someone stood out to me just looking at their numbers.
Okay.
Xavier Holmes, he's their edge guy. 6'3", 245 pounds is what he's listed at. And he's got 5.5 sacks, 9.5 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hurries. So he's somebody I'll kind of keep an eye on to see if he can get pressure at this level. I know the offensive line is struggling, but still, you would think with this drop off in competition, you should be able to block. But I mean, 19 sacks the last 2 games, so who knows?
Okay, you ready for this stat?
He's a guy who really stood out. Also, they got another guy, Isaiah Henderson, who has 4.5 sacks.
Along the same lines of sacks, I didn't realize that. He's not playing at the next. This isn't like he's not playing at the next level, though, is he?
You know, I don't know. Sometimes you find guys at this level. I remember Khalil Mack at Buffalo, watching them play Ohio State to start the season, and this dude was just blowing up their entire offensive line the entire game. Like, who the heck is this guy? Also, you know, Jared Verse a couple years ago was playing at Albany, ended up hitting the portal, going to Florida State, and he became a first-round pick. So you never know. I don't know. I haven't seen enough about him to know, so we'll have a better indication on Saturday.
Here's what you got to worry about. Does Oklahoma make him look like Khalil Mack or Gerard Verse? That's what you got to worry about. Is if you come out of this game and OU still wins, but you're like, man, that guy's amazing. It's like, no, I don't know how amazing he is. Here's how bad it is. You talk about sacks. The Sooners have allowed 39 sacks in 8 games. Already tied for the second most sacks in a season, and we're only through 8 games. Oddly enough, though, so they're going to blow the record. The record is 41 sacks allowed in a season. This is a very weird stat, though. Do you know what season Oklahoma allowed 41 sacks in?
No clue.
Would it surprise you if I said 2015?
Oh, interesting.
Weird, right?
Yeah, I would not have thought that at all. I mean,
that's a college football playoff team.
That's a college football playoff team, but wasn't Orlando Brown a true freshman that year starting at left tackle?
He might have been. And when he wasn't allowing sacks as a true freshman, he was getting penalties. He had more holding penalties, I think, that year than anything.
You put a guy out there. I mean, and Orlando Brown, it's not like he was a 5-star recruit. Like, you have Michael Fasusi coming in next year. He didn't have that kind of pedigree. He had the name because of, being named after his father, who was a great offensive
And he had the size. That guy,
mountain of a man. I mean, yeah. But I was very surprised when he won the starting job as a true freshman. So I would say that probably has a lot to do with it.
It's just bad. It's just bad all around. Here's the deal. Oklahoma needs, I want to reiterate, I want them to play as many guys as they can. They've already talked about playing different offensive linemen because Sexton is hurt, which is not a surprise. He got rolled up really bad after having a really, really good half of football against Ole Miss. Jake Taylor still hurt. I want to see EPL. I want to see the Autry Dent. Is that the right kid?
I think so.
Yeah, I want to see that guy. Looks like he's been elevated from the practice squad to the roster. So that, and then I want to see different running backs. I'd like to see the kitchen sink against Maine, because does anybody pop? Does anybody say, you know what? And maybe everybody pops against Maine. I don't know. Here's the deal. You talk about Temple and going to play Temple next year. We beat Temple 51-3, but you could see there were issues. You could see there were problems. I don't want to see problems coming out of the Maine game. If we see problems out of the Maine game where we can't protect Jackson Arnold, or our running backs are still averaging 4 yards a carry, or defensively we're giving up busts, man, I just don't know, dude.
Yeah,
I don't know what to
it'll
think.
be extremely concerning if that happens. This team does not belong on the field with the type of athletes that Oklahoma recruits. And yeah, you should handle your business and be able to, like you said, get some young guys in the game, either start them or play them in moments early in the game when it's still competitive. See
I
how
want
these
you're
guys look.
100%. I want guys in first quarter, second quarter. Like
Yeah.
I'm not talking about garbage time. I'm like, let's
No.
give these guys a shot.
Yeah,
we've
see what they
seen
got.
we've seen what the first team can do, and it's not great. Good against first half was good against Mississippi. We talked about that. A lot of positivity coming out of that first half. The second half, we sucked it up. I mean, let's just face it. We didn't make any adjustments. Lane Kiffin said, we didn't know what to expect, but at halftime we made the adjustments and we took care of it. I mean, and that sucks. That
And we
really,
talked
really
about it.
sucks.
We knew there would be a spark. I mean, that's my prediction. There would be a spark at the beginning of the game. May not be sustainable, but the spark will be there. And it was. So hopefully you continue with the creativity and sustain it over 4 quarters. Jackson Arnold also needs to have a big game just to continue to build his confidence.
Literally, that's all I want to talk about with Maine. It's Maine. Okay, let's talk about this and then we'll transition to Texas. So Maine are these crappy games that we can so easily identify with the SEC. Every SEC team gets one a year. I've got down listed that UMass is at Mississippi State. We'll talk about that. They're only an 18-point favorite against UMass. Missouri went up to play UMass, which was even weirder.
Oh my, that was the most bizarre scheduling thing I've seen all year.
But every SEC team gets it. Now that we're in the SEC, what do we think about it? We used to make fun of it.
Big time.
Do we think that the grind is really so bad that we need a team like this in the middle of October, November?
I mean, the grind is hard, and Texas hasn't even had to truly deal with it yet. But I mean, grind is hard. It is. I mean, I would still prefer a group of 5 team, even over a team like Maine or UMass. Give me at least a decent group of 5 team. That's what I think. Texas played ULM, and I don't love that either.
I got to tell you, Kevin. Look, OU is in it right now. They are as in it as they've ever been as a program, in terms of struggles, right? Struggling. And yet, with that being said, I'd still rather play 9 conference games than a Maine game.
Same here. Yeah.
You could have added Mississippi State. You could have added Kentucky. You could have added Florida. Oklahoma could have gotten to play Arkansas. I'm not saying we needed to play Georgia. All right. Although our conference schedule is almost everybody but Georgia. That being said, if everybody has to play it, now in the Big Ten, are they playing non-conference games?
That's a good question. Let me check real quick.
I'll just check
Ohio State. I'll just take Ohio State's schedule here.
I don't know, man. I think it's weak. I thought it was weak, and I don't want to change just because we're in the SEC now. And I don't want to change just because OU's having a bad schedule. I thought it was weak then when Alabama played Mercer, when Tennessee plays Tennessee Chattanooga or whoever the crap they're playing. I think it's weak now that we're playing the Maine Black Bears.
Yeah. And I said Texas is playing ULM, and they are in the group of 5 at least. I'm not bragging on ULM, but I'd rather play them than Chattanooga.
Well, and I don't even
the Citadel.
The Citadel. That's exactly right. I don't even know if this is a result of OU having to piece together a schedule, right? We talked about how
Georgia game
last year they lost Georgia, so this year, blah blah blah. But I don't know, dude. Let me tell you, while you're looking up that Ohio State schedule,
it's 9 for Ohio State's playing 9.
See, this is what I'm saying, dude. This is what and Ohio State's playing 9. Indiana's going to play 9. They've got bad teams too. Purdue, Rutgers, USC,
Northwestern.
Yeah, so there's some bad teams that they can play, but at the same time, dude, 9 conference games I think is legit. Yeah. And you look at the Big 12, they're playing 9 conference games. It's legit. I don't know if the ACC is. I don't really care necessarily. But listen to this schedule by Maine. Okay, keep in mind Maine's 4-4. Colgate, Montana. I'm not even going to tell you who wins or loses because it almost doesn't matter. Montana State, Monmouth, Merrimack, Albany, Delaware, Villanova, and Rhode Island. That's just bad.
Yeah.
That is just bad.
Right.
Right.
Right. And now those kids have to come and play the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah, they got to come play Oklahoma. I mean, we're risking. I mean, there's a very real possibility that Oklahoma doesn't sell out. And even if we do sell out, it's not going to be very well.
Though.
It's not going to be very well attended. Yeah. And you can't blame the fans for that. It's Maine.
It's Maine. Yeah. And the team is struggling a bit.
For this year in particular, does it help Oklahoma? Sure it does, because OU sucks so bad. We need all the help we can get. But I don't know. I just give me Mississippi State. Let me get fired up. Maybe I should say I should be careful what I wish for. Maybe that's the case, but I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. Moving to University of Texas, you got a bye week. You play Florida next week. Again, you host Florida, which I still think is just, yes, they gave you a very favorable schedule for who you play, but I also think they gave you an incredibly favorable schedule for when you play them and where you play them. It's just nuts. Whatever. I want to bring up a couple thoughts. Number one, Joel Klatt in an article or on his podcast thinks Sark is protesting too much about his love for Quinn and Quinn being the starter. And he thinks that he's overdoing it in an effort to try to sell the fan base that this is indeed his starter. But really the line is not nearly as defined as he wants to lead everybody to believe. Do you think that Quinn's performance against Georgia and maybe even against Vanderbilt with the 2 interceptions is still tenuous as a starter?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the Georgia one was bad, right? I mean, he was off mechanically. And, first of all, as a team, as an offense, we have to adjust because, everybody's playing us deep. Georgia they had 2 high safeties the entire game. And you guys they're forcing Texas to throw underneath, which is fine against Vanderbilt and a lot of other teams. But against Georgia, they tackle so well that, they're not going to let you get loose. And we never really could adjust to that. But, no, I thought Quinn, he was good against Vanderbilt. He wasn't great. He was good. The interceptions, tip balls. Half the time, those tip balls just hit the ground. These 2, they just happen to catch them.
Yeah.
Right? Again, I get more upset when quarterbacks are making bad reads, if they're throwing into double, triple coverage, things like that, taking unnecessary risks with the football. And I never saw that. His mechanics can be off from time to time. I still don't know if he's 100% because he was playing so good earlier this season. That Michigan game, he was awesome. The UTSA game.
We talked about it against Michigan. He was surgical.
Correct.
He didn't blow you away, but we talk about this a lot in the NFL. You see it where you just have command of the offense. Correct. And he did against Michigan.
Yeah.
You haven't seen that since. Even in the OU game, he was under duress, that bad interception down the middle. He never really Y'all won convincingly. That's not the issue. Yeah. We're talking about Quinn in particular. He just hasn't looked the same.
Yeah, which leads me to believe that he's not truly 100%. I'm not saying he shouldn't be out there, but he's not the same guy he was before the injury. That UTSA game where he got hurt, he was 14 of 15, 200 yards, barely into the second quarter. He was incredible that game before he got hurt. And like I said, he came back and he looks a different guy. Again, I didn't like him coming back against OU. Didn't like it at all. I think Texas knew that they could win the game even with him not being 100%. But I would have preferred him to come back against Mississippi State or even to come back against.
Oh, I see what you mean. You're saying come back sooner.
Yeah, if he was healthy enough to do so, just to get into a more of a rhythm.
I was thinking you were saying he wasn't ready for Texas. For Oklahoma.
No, I think
he was. You want to see?
No. Yeah. I hear what you're saying, but no. So I was hoping he would come back sooner, just to get into into more of a rhythm. But I think this bye week is going to be very important for him. Look, I'm happy with where we're at. We made our preseason predictions, and I picked us to have one loss to Georgia at this point in the season. So
Yep.
that's how it's gone down. So I'm happy with that. This week gives us a chance to really clean some things up and get some guys healthy. Hopefully, we come out against Florida with a lot of energy and we start to kind of get back to where we were offensively earlier in the season, because we're going to have to get better to win some of these games we have left. The Arkansas game is tough, man. That's a tough game on the road, and of course, Texas A&M is setting up to be, an all-time great atmosphere, and it's going to be very difficult with the way that they're playing right now.
It's setting up to be your most anticipated football game.
Yeah, in a long time. I don't know
Since,
when, but it's been a while, man.
Possibly 08 Oklahoma, and that includes your college football playoff game last year. I mean, it could conceivably be more anticipated than your college football playoff game last year.
Yeah, both teams handled their business up until that week. The anticipation for this game. First of all, Texas fans and Texas A&M fans, we've been ready for it since it was scheduled. But just now, from a national standpoint, everybody's going to be tuning in. Every hardcore fans are going to watch anyway because they understand what that rivalry means. But everybody is going to be tuned in for that one, especially if the teams handle their business up until that point.
It's going to be, if they're both undefeated, I will watch the game. I mean, you're not undefeated. I know A&M's lost, but if they're both undefeated,
we both have one loss, and if it stays that way,
I'm sorry. If they go undefeated the next 3 weeks, and it's as big as it is, I will watch the game, because I can't imagine a worse game for an Oklahoma fan to want to watch. Texas and Texas A&M, but
especially with the trip to the SEC championship on the line.
Oh God. What happens if they get there and win or lose, they're both playing each other the next week? It could happen.
It could happen
if Georgia slips. Okay, a couple more things on Texas, and then we're going to go around.
Is there's a good chance of that, by the way.
I think. Well, no, I think so too.
In a football game, they got a tough schedule the rest of the way.
I think so too. Sark thinks that this bye is the midway point of their season. Do you agree?
I do. I think we're gonna have a run here. I think we're gonna have a run.
I
don't know if it's national championship game run, but we're near the midway point.
Status on Isaiah Bond and Andrew Makuba. Any updates?
Yeah, Bond should be back for Florida, and Makuba, they're hopeful about him being back as well.
Okay, listen. Vanderbilt is a nice story and a pretty decent football team.
They are.
For Big 12 fans, they remind me of a good Iowa State team from back in the day. Although Iowa State's really good right now. You know what I'm saying. That late kind of 2000 teens Iowa State team, they were never going to win a national championship. But God, you did not want to play them. That's how I kind of feel about Vanderbilt. However, projecting forward to Florida, and we're going to do an entire preview on that, but projecting forward to Florida's got to be better defensively, right? They've got more dogs on that side of the ball than Vanderbilt has.
Yeah, they've got better athletes for sure. I mean, they've always recruited well, so they're always going to have athletes, which is why it's important, because the level of offense that Texas has put out on the field the last 3 games, Oklahoma, Georgia, and Vanderbilt, is not going to be good enough to win the rest of the games on our schedule. You even might get away with it with Florida. You might, but Arkansas, I don't think it's going to be good enough. Kentucky, who knows? They're horrible, but it's certainly not good enough to beat Texas A&M the way that they're playing right now.
Okay. No, I agree. Okay. Week 10. So again, Oklahoma plays Maine. We'll pick that game. They're 34.5-point favorite. Texas is on a bye week. It's actually a pretty good slate of games, though, Kevin. A pretty good slate of games, especially for a Texas fan that gets to just sit back and watch. Friday night, you got San Diego State against a ranked Boise State team. They're a 23-point favorite. It's really the Ashon Jainty watch, right? That's what we're watching to see if he can break those records. He might have a really good chance against San Diego State. Let's move to Saturday, though. Right out of the gate, big noon kickoff. It's a big-time game.
Big time, yeah.
Ohio State at Penn State. Penn State's a 3.5-point dog at home. Penn State doesn't ever beat Ohio State. They just don't.
No.
They never beat them. And now they're down their quarterback. Does Penn State have any chance to beat Ohio State this year?
So it's been Drew Aller's ruled out.
He's out. So he's out. Okay. Is that true? Is that what you're saying, or is that what I'm saying?
No. I'm asking you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what Drew Aller's status is for this game. Okay, ESPN said it could be a game time decision. No, man, I got to roll with Ohio State. I do think Ohio State has not looked great the last couple weeks. You know, they lost to Oregon, which, I mean, no shame in losing to Oregon on the road.
No.
But they didn't look great against Nebraska. The offense didn't look great. They couldn't really run it, and they couldn't really throw it well either. So I think they're looking for a bounce-back performance. It's going to be a tough environment. Penn State, I'm sure it's going to be one of those whiteouts that they have. So I want to see how Will Howard handles that, and can they establish the run against Penn State, because they're going to need to run the football to handle that environment, because Penn State is very active, and they've got Abdul Carter out there on the edge, who's a dynamic rusher for them.
This is a side note. If Ohio State was to lose, let's say they lose to Penn State, maybe Indiana. They play Indiana in a couple weeks. We know how good Indiana is looking right now. Oklahoma fans keeping an eye on like their offensive coordinator, the whole deal. Would Ohio State, if they were to lose to Penn State and Indiana, have 3 losses, maybe even potentially miss the playoff? Could Ryan Day be looking at losing his job in favor of, for example, the Indiana coach?
Yes. Yeah, because
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too.
A different animal, man.
They could win 9 games. And he could lose his job.
Listen, Ohio State is never bad, right? I think
they haven't been bad in our lifetime. They haven't been bad in our lifetime.
Correct.
At least
Oklahoma gets credit for being very consistent overall as a program, and you have been very few down. But Ohio State is never bad, and I think what Ohio State says,
they had Cooper back in the 90s. And all that guy did was go 10-2 for like 6 years, 7 years in a row. Sent so many people to the league. It was crazy. Eddie George, all that stuff.
Orlando Hayes, David Boston.
And they fired his ass because he could not beat Michigan.
Correct. Yes.
I mean, Ohio State, they've lost to Michigan 3 years in a row.
3 years in a row.
And
after beating them like eight in a row.
And not done anything in the playoff when they make the playoff. I don't know, man. You lose to Penn State and Indiana, Ryan Day could be out.
Correct. And because the way they look at it is that you're our head coach. We will give you everything you ask for. You want a new facility? We'll build you a new facility. If you want this much money for your coaching staff, here it is. But you got to win. You got to win big. Because they give you everything you could ask for as a head coach, but they expect you, as a result, to win football games and to win championships. It's a lot of pressure, man. It seems like it's an easy job, and in some ways it is, but, you know, you've got to have those championship moments. It's tough.
Okay, look, we're going to pick this game. But pending the outcome of this game, and especially the Indiana game, I think they beat Michigan this year. But pending the outcome of this game and the Indiana game, I think this is when you get your verdict on Will Howard. I just never thought he's an Ohio State quarterback. Like,
I was a little bit surprised when they went after him in the portal.
He's a nice quarterback, I guess, but
yeah.
I mean, Oklahoma wouldn't want him. Texas wouldn't want him.
No, I saw him as being very good for K-State. He looked like a K-State quarterback, Colin Klein type.
Fine. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, look, would we take him right now? Will we take his production? But he's not doing any better than Jackson Arnold with this defense, with this offensive line and receivers.
He has 3 5-star receivers, literally 3 5-star receivers that he's throwing.
Who aren't hurt. Who are healthy, and 2 stud running backs. But they have got some offensive line issues too. So that's something to look for on Saturday, that Penn State pass rush. All right, Duke at Miami. Miami's 21-point favorite. First time in the top 5 since 2017. Ole Miss at Arkansas. Arkansas is a 7-point dog at home.
That should be a fun one, though.
I just made the comment that I don't know that Ole Miss is as good as we think, or at least where they're ranked. If Arkansas can upset it, I think I might be validated in that. Now they go up to Arkansas and blow them out, blow them out of the water, then maybe they're okay. But I still think to be determined.
I will say I was impressed with some of the pocket awareness stuff from Jackson Dart. Some of the throws he made on the run when he got flushed out. He had that one where he hit the.
Well, what I was impressed with was how they used the tight end. I thought maybe they look at that in the going forward. Their running game wasn't impressive though. Oklahoma.
No, you shut it down. Game. Shut it down completely.
Air Force and Army. Army's a 22.5 point dog. 22.5 point favorite. Vanderbilt and Auburn. How do you like this? I double checked this, and let me double check this again, okay, before I make the comment. Vandy at Auburn. And Auburn is a 7 point favorite. Is that correct? Yes. I double checked it.
Well, Auburn won. They did, what they win against Kentucky on the road, which I know Kentucky sucks, but yeah, I know I do see that.
I think Auburn sucks.
They've got good players though, man.
If Oklahoma can beat Auburn and Auburn sucks.
Yeah, but you guys had what are y'all Sooner Magic on your side that night?
I guess so, but Vanderbilt played well. It was a 3 point game against Texas.
Yeah,
they beat Alabama. They curb stomped Kentucky. This line, we might have to pick this game because I just don't love this line.
Yeah, let's pick it.
We'll come back. I'm gonna write it down. Indiana at Michigan State. Indiana is a 7.5 point favorite on the road. I like Indiana. We like what they're about so far. They haven't. Yeah. One of the only teams that haven't trailed all year. They have an Army, I think. Only two teams that haven't trailed all year.
Crazy.
Oregon at Michigan. I think Oregon rolls. They're a 15 point favorite. Florida at Georgia, 16.5 point. This is another game. This is what I'm talking about with Texas's schedule. It's like not only do you host Florida, but it's when you host Florida, right after they get their dog kicked by Georgia.
Who knows, man? They might give Georgia a little run. I think they might be a little competitive in this game.
But if they do, I feel like they're going to be all out by the time they play Texas. This is what I'm saying. Like, they're either going to get beat down by Georgia or they're going to give Georgia the game of the year. Either way, Texas gets the scraps in 2 weeks.
Hey, we'll be ready for them. Come on, Gators. Yeah. Gator bait.
Texas Tech and Iowa State. Iowa State's 13.5 point favorite. K-State at Houston. K-State's 13 points. I brought up Navy at Rice, even though Navy let me down last week. I still want to just throw it out there because we've been kind of keeping an eye on them. Rice is a 10.5 point dog at home.
Rice, I'm pretty sure just fired their head coach this week too.
Interesting. I don't know how they ever keep a coach at Rice, honestly, but whatever. Still, one of the great lines by a president. You remember what he said about this when he's standing at Rice, when he's talking about sending people to the moon?
Yeah, go ahead.
We do these things not because they are easy. We do them because they're hard, right? That's why we endeavored to land on the moon by the end of this decade. And he's like, why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why does Rice play Texas, right? Because it's hard. I love it. Literally in Rice's backyard, throwing shade at Rice. Great line. The aforementioned UMass, Mississippi State. Mississippi State's only an 18 point favorite. I actually think.
Yeah. Look,
that's a weird line.
I told you about Levy's offense and their young quarterback, Michael Van Buren. I'm a big fan.
I think that this line's too small.
You would think so, but
they beat UMass by more than 18, don't they?
You never know. And their defense, maybe, who knows? First of all, I know nothing about UMass. So maybe UMass has this crazy spread, air raid offense that can put up points. And their offense, the defense, Mississippi State's defense is horrible.
JFK's library is on UMass's campus. I went to it last winter.
That's cool. Very nice.
Fantastic. Great trip. Look, Boston in general. And I only saw like a brief smidgen.
You're a history buff, so does it get any better?
Well, I think if you're a sports fan, it can't get any better either.
For sure. But I just know you and how much you love history, so especially American history.
Neither of these two teams are ranked, and usually that's what it takes for us to talk about them. But the wheels are falling off. As bad as Oklahoma is, OSU's worse. ASU at OSU. OSU is a 3 point dog at home against ASU of all. I mean, that's just it's terrible.
They're not a bad team, Arizona State. So,
are you ready for this? Is the line that jumped out at me of all these lines, though. And then we've got a couple more games to talk about. A&M at South Carolina. Okay, A&M is leading the SEC, number one in the SEC right now. The only undefeated team in the SEC. They're playing South Carolina, and South Carolina is only a 2.5-point favorite. I mean, a 2.5-point dog. Do they really think South Carolina can make this a game?
They must. I mean, that is a very close line. It's almost a pick 'em with them being on the road. With them being on the road. I'm curious, right? We're going to learn more about Texas A&M and how they handle success. They're flying sky high after this LSU win. It was a historic type of win for them. Can they focus and head on the road? We know it's going to be a great environment in that stadium.
We know South Carolina's got a defense. We know they got a defense.
Let's not forget the dudes they have out there, especially on the edges. And first of all, I'm assuming A&M is going with Marcel Reed at quarterback, right? You can't go back to Connor Wegman after what Marcel Reed did, right?
What about if you want to throw the ball, though? Reed does. I mean, he's got two. He went 2 for 2. They were great.
Yeah, they need to run the ball. I know. So I'm curious. So that may have a lot to do with their thinking when it comes to making this line. Who's going to be playing quarterback? What's the vibe going to be? And is A&M going to be refocused after that huge win against LSU?
We'll pick it. We'll find out. Louisville at Clemson. Clemson's 11-point favorite. Your boy Lincoln Riley is at Washington. Washington's a 3-point dog. I don't know how you make USC a favorite against anybody this year with their inability to close games out, but maybe Washington's that team. Last game in the SEC, Kentucky at Tennessee. Tennessee's 16.5 points. Undefeated Pitt at SMU, who I think is like 6-1, maybe 7-1. SMU is actually 7.5-point favorite at home. So
yeah,
that's a game to keep it. It's a game to keep an eye on for the playoff. You know.
Yeah. But SMU has been putting up some points this year. 66 on TCU, 42 on Florida State, 34 on Louisville, 40 against Stanford. So
you mentioned it last week. I picked SMU to win the ACC.
You did, yeah.
Clemson coming on very strong, giving me some. But if SMU can beat undefeated Pitt, I'm still feeling very good about my pick.
Yeah, and of course, Miami also undefeated. And
oh yeah, I forgot about Miami.
But and here's the thing too. Now again, you got to win a championship game. But Miami's schedule, they don't play Clemson this year during the regular season.
Oh really?
They don't play Pitt, and they don't play SMU. Miami. So the 3 next best teams in your conference, you don't play them.
They're taking advantage of their schedule.
Exactly. Just like Texas should be doing, right? I mean, we had to play Georgia, the top team in the conference overall from a talent standpoint. But I mean, take advantage of it.
You could dog Miami, I guess.
I'm not. No, I mean the schedule is they don't make their schedule.
They don't make their schedule, and they still had Florida State and Florida on the schedule, and nobody anticipates Florida State being that bad. And when you make the schedule 3 or 4 years ago and decide, let's play Florida again, you don't expect Florida to be the trash heap that they are right now. And I don't know. I think Florida's kind of had a little bit of resurgence. We'll see against Georgia.
I think so. They're 4-3. So, I mean, about as good as you can hope for given that absolute gauntlet of a schedule that they've had this year. So, it's kind of like Texas. I mean, we didn't think Michigan was going to suck.
Let's make our picks. Let's start with OU because this is the least exciting pick. It's a 34.5. Over-under is 45. 34.5 and the over-under is 45. I don't even know what that works out to. They're going to beat them 40-5. Is that what that means? How does that even work?
Yeah, I know.
The over-under is 45 and the line is 34.5.
Yeah, that's it. That's very interesting. Yeah,
40-6. I guess 40-6.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Interesting. Either way,
38-7 would be 45, but that would only be a 31-point win.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Yeah.
Who do you take? You take. I think OU. I'm just gonna say it. I think OU covers.
Yeah, I think you do too.
Yeah, I think OU covers. All right, let's pick the fun games. The biggest matchup, big noon kickoff, Ohio State and Penn State. And the line is 3.5. Penn State is a 3.5-point dog.
I like the Buckeyes to cover. I think they'll be refocused and get the ball to those weapons in space, man. Just get the ball to them. Let them go make things happen.
I'm going to go on history, and Penn State just doesn't beat Ohio State. And I don't trust Will Howard. I don't think he's a national championship caliber quarterback. I look around at who Miami has and who Oregon has, and even who Georgia has. Beck, although we don't love Beck, we've seen him in big games make plays when he needs to. Even you look at Texas, I don't trust Quinn, but I take Quinn way over Will Howard. All that to be said, Ohio State. Florida, Georgia. Let's do Florida, Georgia, the cocktail party.
You said the line 16?
I had 16.5. Georgia's 16.5-point favorite. Does Florida cover?
Yes. I don't feel good about it, but I'll say they will. I want to see what the freshman Lagway, how he handles playing in that kind of environment. I'll say they do. I don't feel good about that at all, by the way.
I'm taking Georgia to cover the 16.5. I think Georgia's kind of coming around.
If they're focused and ready, they'll handle business for sure.
Hold on just a second. Can you pause it? Can you pause it real quick? Pause it real quick, Kevin.
If Georgia will have that same mindset that they had against Texas, if they have that, then they're almost impossible for anybody in the country to beat.
Anyway, technical difficulties, but yes, I agree. Whatever. I'm going to go with Georgia to cover. You got Florida. I could see it easily being 35-21, or no, like 35-17, which would be 17 points, 16, 17 points. So it's just, whatever it is. Okay, here's the line. Again, we talked about this. Here's the line that I think is just the most interesting line of the day is A&M, South Carolina. South Carolina is only a 2.5-point dog at home against undefeated in the SEC A&M.
I think A&M covers. I think it'll be close because of South Carolina's defense, but I think Lenore Sellers, he will throw you a couple passes, and I think A&M will catch them. I think they'll turn them over, and that's how they win the game with their defense.
I think A&M does A&M things and loses to South Carolina on the road.
Okay.
I think you talk about handling success, and I'm just not sure they're there yet. I actually like what Elko's about. He seems to be a serious coach. He seems to be an old school coach. He seems to have players moving in the right directions. This isn't even so much a knock on A&M as a team this year. I just think it's going to be really hard to maintain that. And I think there's an element of already looking ahead to Texas.
Okay.
Which sounds crazy.
It does sound crazy. It does sound crazy.
It's real. I think it's real.
It is A&M. It is A&M, so you can't put it past them at all. If that happens, then all hell breaks loose in the Southeastern Conference. All hell breaks loose.
Well, everybody's back in.
Everybody,
LSU's back in. Alabama's back in. Everybody's back in because the two loss team is like right on the edge.
Correct. So then you would have A&M, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and LSU all with one loss in conference, followed by Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, and Florida with 2 losses.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oklahoma's not in that list. Vanderbilt, what did we say? What were we saying? Where was that game at? Vandy at Auburn. Auburn's a 7-point favorite.
Auburn.
You're taking Auburn?
No. I'm just saying that.
Vandy at Auburn.
Yeah.
I just think Auburn sucks. I just think Auburn sucks. I think Vandy covers.
I do too.
I don't know what we're talking
about. I just like what they're about. So yeah, I'll pick up them cover too.
All right. Well, this is interesting then. We agree on 3 of the games. We're different on 2. Currently tied 22 and 24. Either one of us, we need to make a bump up to we got to get on the plus side of this to be respected, as media members. I don't know if that really gets the respect. Kevin, it's a bye week for you. It's a de facto bye week for Oklahoma. But that's okay because the rest of the college football slate is really, really juicy. And I think it's going to be a pretty good week. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to the continued construction of my putting green. This is the only thing that's keeping me forward thinking, giving me hope, give me something to look for. So, whatever. We'll go with it.
And John, it's week 10. I just want to say that. It's already week 10.
I know, dude. It's kind of sad, man.
It is, man. I'm just saying.
Now, I will say, I like the idea. I like what Sark said about it. When he said that it was halfway through the season, I'm not sure the math works out there. But the fact that we're going to have that many more meaningful games is freaking exciting, dude.
Yeah, it is.
You're going to have championship week. Then you're going to have opening round games. Then you're going to have quarterfinals and then semifinal. I mean, so I agree. Week 10, sad, especially for Oklahoma, whose season's effectively over. But for Texas and as a college football fan, this is shaping up to just be a hell of a playoff. I mean, just look at the Big Ten and the SEC, who we think is the best two conferences. I mean, we don't know who the winner is. We think Oregon will probably pull out, but we can't be sure of that. There's a lot of drama to be had right then and there. Is this what it is?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy.
Right, yeah. I mean, this weekend here, December 20th and 21st. I mean, a triple header on December 21st.
It's unbelievable.
You've got to be kidding me here. We had a Friday night playoff game.
And then you get the peach and the sugar and the Rose Bowl all on January 1st.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else you need,
It gets
man.
no better. Semifinals there.
Where's the final at?
Atlanta.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Dude, if Georgia goes and plays in Atlanta again, I'm going to puke. I'm so sick of them playing. I feel like they've won every –
They can be beaten, Atlanta. Ask Nick Saban.
Yeah, that's fine, but I don't know. I'm just so bleh. But yes, everything else on that screen looks awesome. If you don't know what we're looking at the schedule for the playoffs. And to have that many meaningful postseason games in college football.
It's been a long time. Really, we haven't ever had it.
Well, no, I was about to say, never. Never.
It's historic stuff, man.
Kevin, have a great afternoon. Enjoy your bye week. Relax. Take stock of where you're at. Spend some time with the wifey because you're going to have to buckle up and get ready to go. I, on the other hand, am going to continue to supervise the construction of my putting green. I've turned into a general contractor. I'm killing it. Oklahoma will play against Maine. I will watch every second of it because I'm an OU fan, but it's still Maine Black Bears, and I don't really care. We got to get to Missouri, and we got to beat Missouri.
Just be glad you don't have to pay $55 for it like you used to for this kind of game.
No, but I'm paying with chunks of my soul, Kevin. Little bits of my soul.
Well, we invest our souls every year for this, so that's nothing new. There's just no reward for you this year.
No, only pain and sorrow. Kevin, have a great afternoon. Boomer.
Hook 'em.